Well, good morning. Good morning. This is Coffee with Carol. And today I want to talk about relationships, basically, that communication style that we have. And as leaders, as women with our husbands, right? Because I think it's so important to understand a couple of key concepts. Women, as a general rule, like to talk. Really. I mean, women like to talk. They like to express themselves. They like to share things. Men, on the other hand, are much less likely to be found talking about things. They're a little bit more reserved, right? So I want to talk about that because that can make a difference in your communication with your husband, communication with your leaders in your work situations, and just overall. So as women, I think we can get better. We can absolutely get better. So the first thing I want to talk about is that Proverbs 21:23 says that people who are careful of what they say will save themselves a lot of trouble in the long run. So if you're really careful about what you say and you think about what you say before you say it, that can really be helpful. We also don't want to be gossipers. We don't want to be gossiping about this and gossiping about that. Proverbs 18:8 says to us that listening or participating in gossip is like eating cheap candy. And do we really want that in our belly, right? So think about the words that we're using. Think about the things that we're sharing, okay? And I have two questions to ask yourself before you share any information. The first one is this information really vital to the position or role of the other person? So is this information going to really make a difference for them? Is it important for them in their position as my husband, as my leader, as my direct report, whatever it is it important for them to know? That's the first thing. Is it going to be vital to their position? Is it going to make a difference to them? And the second thing is it, as in Ephesians 4:29 says, is it going to build them up and edify them and be words of encouragement and positivity and all of that, okay? So if you can't answer yes to one of those questions, keep your mouth shut. Just don't say it. It's not important. So let me give you an example. So for this particular situation, let's just say I was in the store and I saw somebody I hadn't seen in a while. And we got talking and she told me about how she just got a new dog or how her daughter just had a grandbaby, right? And so she's telling me this stuff and it's really exciting and I'm happy for her, right? So then I get home and it's like, I was so excited to see this person and I want to tell my husband. Okay, bear with me on this. So I'm going to ask myself, is this information absolutely 100% important to his role as my husband? It's not, right? It's not. It's not going to make a difference whether he knows about this conversation or not. The second thing, is it going to lift him up? Is it going to be edifying and encouraging to him? He's not really into dogs, or he's not really into kids, or he's not really whatever. I don't know, but it's not about him, right? It's not going to lift him up. It's just news. So I keep it to myself and I enjoy the conversation that I had, but I don't share it with him. Let's take another example because maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe you take a certain route to work and one of your employees takes the same route to work, but comes in an hour later. And as you're going, you come upon this horrific accident and it's a really bad one, but you have to go a different way. Well, it might be good to call that employee and say, listen, on the way, the same way that you normally go, there was a really bad accident. And so I would recommend that you go a different way. However, if you are on your way to work and you see this horrific accident and it really isn't going to impact anybody, you don't talk about it. Why? Because it's not important to their position and it's not going to make them feel good and build them up. So keep your mouth shut. You see, but we as human beings, especially as women, we tend to want to say everything or share everything, right? Okay. So one out of two questions has to be a yes. Is it vital to their position? Is it going to build them up, edify them, and encourage them? If no, to both of those, zip your mouth and keep it shut. Okay. It has made a difference for my relationship with my husband, because there's certain things that I want to say, like, oh, you know what I saw today, or you know what I heard today, and I just keep my mouth shut, because it's not going to make or break, right? And that has made a difference. And the words that I use are more selective, and he's more apt to hear me when I'm speaking to him. The second thing that I want to talk about is venting. Venting is something that the world created. We talk about this. We say, I just needed to vent. Thank you so much. I just needed to vent. I mean, I've done it. I've done it a lot, okay, in my life. But I want you to think about something, okay? Venting is really just rehashing all of the things that are going on. So you're giving them attention, you're giving them a focus, you're giving them, I don't know, you're just making them important, making those things important, okay? And you're really not getting rid of anything. When you look at the biblical leaders and you look at how they handled their frustrations, their insecurities, their complaints, things like that, how did they handle them? Well, they all went straight to God with them, and God was able then to answer them. So when Abraham was stressing out about taking Isaac up on the mountain and sacrificing him, because God had asked him to do that, he had that conversation with God. He was like, you know what, God, right? What he did to people, what he said to his servant was, the boy and I are going to go, you stay here with the donkey, and we will be back. But he didn't complain. He didn't tell him what was going on. He didn't give him all the details. So think about that. When Moses was asked to go speak to Pharaoh, he was a little bit insecure about his ability to articulate the words. And he spoke that to God. He didn't tell people. He didn't go to his friend and say, hey, Joe, you know, God asked me to do this thing, and I'm just not sure that I can really handle it. I don't know if I'm going to have the right words. I mean, I never seem to have the right words. So I'm really nervous. Okay. How many times have we said something like that? We don't talk to people. They didn't talk to people, I should say. They talked to God. David, you know, when David was going to take down Goliath, he didn't go to the leaders. He didn't go to people and say, yeah, you know, I'm a little nervous about this. I haven't seen this guy. I don't know how big he is. I don't know what's going on. He took any of those insecurities to God, and God reinforced in him the ability to do stuff. And he spoke only words of faith and positivity and truth. Okay. Joshua, same deal. Joshua really doesn't say in Joshua where he spoke to God, but it does say what he said to the people. And there's nothing in saying to the people that he was like nervous or unsure of himself or a little bit worried. He just nailed it. He just, every single time, this is what God said to do. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to handle it. This is what's going to happen. He didn't share any of his worries, his doubts, his fears with the people. And so I want to encourage you to think about your venting, and think about venting in a different way. Okay. Venting begins with a V. A V starts at one side, comes down, and goes up one other side. So if you consider yourself as one side, you can only take your information to one other person, one other side for the V, and that is God. So it's me to God. I'm going to take my discouragement. I'm going to take my frustration. I'm going to take my anger. I'm going to take my nervousness. I'm going to take my complaints. I'm going to take all of that, and I'm going to bring it to God, because God can give me the right answers. So I want you to think about venting in a different way as well. Take your ideas, go to openbible.info/topics and type in whatever idea comes to your mind, like I'm discouraged, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm nervous, I'm worried, whatever it is that you would normally take to a person, take it to God and see if you don't get a better answer. God does the how and you do the do. So make it a great day and watch your words.